Six Flags St. Louis is one of the lesser talked about parks in the Six Flags chain. While the park may not have the signature RMC or the traditional hypercoaster that the other parks in the chain have, Six Flags St. Louis is a solid park that excels in many areas. So in this video, I will be reviewing the so-called Gateway to Thrills. Six Flags currently owns 15 different amusement parks, but a majority of those parks were acquired. Six Flags St. Louis was one of 3 parks that the chain actually built from scratch, with the other 2 being Six Flags Over Texas and Six Flags Over Georgia. The park originally opened in 1971 as Six Flags Over Mid-America at a cost of $55 million. For the park's 25th anniversary in 1996, the park was renamed to its current name of Six Flags St. Louis. The park is located in Eureka, Missouri, which is roughly 30 miles west of downtown St. Louis. It's the only major park in the St. Louis metro area, as the next closest amusement parks are all 3.5 hours away in Silver Dollar City, Worlds of Fun, and Holiday World. One of the most common criticisms about the Six Flags parks is with regards to their appearance. But that's actually a strength for Six Flags St. Louis. This park looks great. The park is located on a hillside, so it has a really underrated skyline when you pull into the parking lot. You see Batman and American Thunder in the foreground, but atop the hill, you see Mr. Freeze, Superman, and Skyscreamer rising towards the clouds. Once inside, one of the most striking things is the amount of trees. This park is very well shaded on the midways, and several of the rides go out into the woods, most notably the Boss and Screamin' Eagle. I've visited this park a few times. While the park has never been empty, it has never been swamped either. And this includes visits on holiday weekends for both Memorial Day and the 4th of July. Even in those days, the worst lines I saw for the coasters hovered around the half-hour mark. But if you're pressed for time or want to get on rides faster, the park does offer the paid Flash Pass skip-the-line system like so many parks in the chain. And it does tend to cost less at Six Flags St. Louis than the larger parks to reflect the lesser crowd levels. While the queue times aren't usually overly long, the actual physical length of the queue line is comically oversized in many cases. If you want to ride Batman, Mr. Freeze, or the Boss, you will have to walk a mile, and because of how those queue lines are configured, you can't really skip much of the queue. So even if there's no one in line, it'll probably take you 5 to 10 minutes just to reach the station. In terms of ride operations, the biggest issue I've run into with Six Flags St. Louis are one-train operations. Screamin' Eagle and Mr. Freeze have operated with just one train on all my visits. American Thunder and Batman are usually quite good about running 2 trains. Boss is a bit of an odd situation. One thing to consider about visiting this park is if Boss is a priority for you. This hulking wooden roller coaster is among the tallest, fastest, and longest wooden roller coasters in the world. But to prevent wear and tear in the structure, the second half is severely trimmed and the ride crawls. This makes it a valley risk on cooler days. For this reason, Boss will not run at the very start or end of the season. I believe it needs to be above 60 degrees for the ride to operate. And the ride also needs to be halfway loaded. Even when the ride is fully warmed up, the park cannot risk sending out an empty train. I found it especially odd in 2018 when Boss was running 2 trains. The ride became a walk-on by the end of the day, so the park began loading just one train with guests. The other train was loaded with sandbags, presumably so the park didn't have to call maintenance to transfer off the train. For this reason, I would not advise going to Boss right away unless you have a huge group, as its location in the back of the park means that people will take a while to get back there, and you don't want to reach the station only to be turned around because there's not enough riders. Most of the rides have been open in my visits. Excalibur was closed in my first visit as part of an extended refurbishment, but I believe it has run consistently ever since reopening in 2020. But there are 2 rides that seem most prone to downtime in my experiences. First, there's Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. I know others that have seen the ride closed for the entire day, or even seen it valley, but for me, Mr. Freeze just tends to have several 15 to 20 minute bouts of downtime throughout the day. Since it's arguably the most unreliable and also the most popular coaster in the park, I would recommend heading there first to maximize your chances to ride it Second, Skyscreamer has opened late due to mechanical issues multiple times for me. Maybe I've just been unlucky with this one, since the other ones in the chain don't seem to have those issues. The coaster lineup at Six Flags St. Louis is quite unique. There are 9 coasters in total, and oddly, not a single kiddie coaster. The best coaster is the aforementioned Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. I have a separate review on this coaster, but this Premier Rides launch coaster is ridiculously forceful. The backwards launch is unique, the inverted top hat is an indescribable blend of positive and negative G's, the overbank can cause me to start seeing gray, and the giant spike is a great source of weightlessness. Plus, you get to experience this layout not once, but twice. One of the more unique things about this park is the reliance on wood coasters. This park has 3 of them, and there's no clear consensus which one is the best. In fact, my rankings completely flipped between my 2018 and 2020 visits. My current favorite wood coaster is the Boss. This CCI is a polarizing coaster. Some consider this ride excessively rough, others like myself find it rideable and appreciate the ride for its wooded setting, tall drops, and strong laterals. My biggest issue with the ride is that the mid-course brake run neuters the pacing in the second half, but it's still an enjoyable coaster, albeit an aggressive one. I have a separate review in this ride as well if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it. American Thunder is the park's newest roller coaster, which is crazy to think because it's 13 years old at this point. This GCI is more of an out and back layout compared to their usual twisters. It's a sea of bunny hills. While the ride has a large quantity of airtime, the quality of that airtime was just okay, and it seemed to be running slow in 2020. The ride is quite smooth though, and I also have a separate review on this coaster. In the very back of the park is Screamin' Eagle. This John Allen wood coaster was a record breaker when it opened in 1976, as it opened as the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster and held that record for a brief period. And I think the ride is overshadowed now. Like American Thunder, I thought it was running slow in 2020, but the ride has a fantastic setting among the trees, and at its peak, it has some solid airtime hills throughout the course. Plus, it's decently smooth. In general, this park does a good job maintaining their wood coasters. River King Mine Train is a decent aero mine train. It's one of the best family coasters in the park, but it does have a surprising drop at the end. Make sure you ride in the back, and you'll get some shocking ejector airtime. But this ride is more fascinating for its history. The ride used to have 2 tracks, the second of which currently operates as Big Bad John at Magic Springs in Arkansas. And for 1 year, this ride even operated as a stand-up coaster called Railblazer. But unfortunately, a woman fell out of the ride, so it was converted back to a traditional mine train. The other family coaster is Pandemonium, which is a Gerstlauer spinner you can also find at 4 other parks in the chain. This one comes closer to the trees, but it rides fairly similarly otherwise. This is also one I recommend hitting early before it builds up a line. Batman the Ride is another common clone, but it's among the best clones in the world. This B&M inverted coaster is a forceful blitz of inversions and leg-numbing turns, and I love how this one still has the black Keller scheme. Then you have 2 Vekomas, often criticized for their roughness. I actually don't mind Ninja, but that's because my head clears the top of the over-the-shoulder restraint. The turns are pretty jerky in this one, but I enjoy the pop of airtime on the drop, the positive G's in the vertical loop, and the insane head chopper with the chain return on the Sidewinder. It's among the best head choppers on any coaster. But Boomerang is every bit as bad as people say. This is one of the rare ones that run the Aero trains, and it'll rough you up. The one good thing about this ride is its placement on the hill, so you get a really neat view of the whole park. Or alternatively, you can ride Skyscreamer or Superman Tower of Power to get the same view. These 2 flat rides are located right next to Boomerang on the same hill. Superman in particular is an absolute thrill. This second generation Intamin drop tower came from Astroworld. It stands 227 feet or 69 meters tall. According to Google Earth, the back of the park is roughly 28 meters or 92 feet taller than the main entrance. So if you ride on the side facing towards the front of the park, you're at giga heights. Not only is the view great, but the drop offers some nice float and a good stomach dropping sensation the whole way down. The other notable flat ride here is Excalibur. This is one of 5 Evolution rides remaining. I have a separate review on this attraction, but this imposing pendulum ride looks better than it actually is. The ride is short and more disorienting than forceful, but it is still a really interesting ride with some unique forces, so I do recommend riding it since you may not come across one of these rides ever again. The park's next attraction in Catwoman Whip could become the best non-coaster in the park. This Fun Time booster is expected to be located up by the Boss, and it will wildly flip riders 16 stories in the air. Now if you're into photography, I strongly recommend Colossus, the park's giant 180-foot or 55-meter tall Ferris wheel. This one gives you one slow rotation, and you get some awesome views of the park, especially of elusive rides like Boss. The park's other flat rides consist of your typical spinning and pendulum rides, which are usually walk-ons if you want a break from the coasters. For water rides, you have one of the older log flumes out there, which is uncreatively named Log Flume. It's pretty tame compared to newer models, but it was groundbreaking for the time, and it has two sides. Thunder River is your best option on a hot day. This ride's entrance can be a bit tricky to find. It's off the main midway between Mr. Freeze and Boss, but it has a series of powerful rapids that can soak you to the bone. If you want to cool off without getting drenched, you also have a dark ride in Justice League Battle for Metropolis. I haven't actually ridden the one in St. Louis because it was closed for maintenance in 2018, and then in 2020 it was closed due to COVID. But if it's like the other ones, it's a fun and chaotic shooting dark ride. Although I do wish I could have experienced the older Castaway Kids or Scooby-Doo Ghost Blasters boat ride that this attraction replaced. For younger guests, you also have a Looney Tunes themed kids area with several smaller flat rides, and this is arguably the most well-shaded area in the park, so it's perfect for parents to relax while their kids enjoy themselves. Last but not least, Six Flags St. Louis also has an attached water park in Hurricane Harbor. I haven't actually visited this water park, but it looks to have a decent slide collection if you're a water park fan. While the park's current ride lineup is enjoyable, there are two gaps. The first is a kiddie coaster. I know I'm not the ride's target audience, but I do find it odd a park of this size doesn't have a starter coaster for younger guests. The second is an airtime-focused steel coaster. My pipe dream is for RMC Boss, but I don't know if Six Flags would be willing to spend enough to convert the entire layout. I think the more likely scenario for this park is an RMC Raptor sometime in the next decade, since this park really is due for a coaster. Like the other parks in the chain, Six Flags St. Louis has seasonal events such as Fright Fest and Holiday in the Park. And this park has a fairly long operating season, as they're only really closed in January and February now. While I think Six Flags St. Louis is in the lower half of the Six Flags parks, it's still an enjoyable park. I think it's the second best park in all of Missouri. I do prefer Silver Dollar City by quite a bit, but I think this park is a hair better than Worlds of Fun. This park has a better atmosphere than Worlds of Fun and a slightly better ride lineup. I think Six Flags St. Louis is worth a stop on any Midwest coaster trip. So those are my thoughts on Six Flags St. Louis, one of the oldest Six Flags parks. What are your thoughts on this park? Have you been there? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you gave it a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.